All right, folks, we're going to get started. We're going to convene our meeting. Welcome to our regular city council meeting of May 13, 2025. Call the meeting to order formally and have a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Doring.
Roll call, sorry.
Mayor Doring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Deasy. Here. Councilmember Barrick.
Here.
Spetaroto. And Summers.
I am here.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Barrett, could you make sure that your seat...
Yes, sir.
All right, we're moving on now to item 4 on our agenda, adoption of the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any updates to the agenda? And there may be, we may have our city attorney provide one update. Any other updates?
No other update other than that.
Mr. Walsh, we have an update on one of our calendar items, our public hearing items. Would you explain what we're going to do there?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just scrolling down to the number so I get this right. 1 second, please. So we're pulling item 11.1. We aren't extending that to a date certain. We're just pulling it for now. This is the item for the proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. As the council noted, we received a number of public comments on this item. I think the commenters made some good and thoughtful comments, and we think it needs a little more attention. I do plan to reach out to the commenters and see if we can set up a meeting to have a conversation about this. I believe some of them are here tonight, so if they do want to make comment because they made the effort to come out, they're welcome to do so, but they should do so during open public comment rather than wait for the item.
All right. Is that clear for folks? On 11.1, we're going to continue that matter to a date uncertain. We have to work through a couple of issues. You're welcome to make comments under our public forum tonight if you want, or you can wait until the matter comes back. Do you have even an estimate about when it would come back?
I mean, I think we'll try to move it forward. I'm not going to let it drag out indefinitely, but definitely not at the next meeting.
I'll make this comment. I appreciate all the comments, or a number of comments, quite lengthy, quite detailed, quite important for us, quite significant for our decision-making process. So I appreciate that. Sorry that we've had to make a change right now. Some of you have had to make adjustments in your schedules. I know how that is. But bear with us as we work through the issues, and hopefully we'll get the decision-making done correctly. All right. Any other items that we need to know about, Mr. Camello, in terms of the agenda? All right, then, with that item noted, 11.1 will be taken off the calendar tonight. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move.
Who was that?
Second the motion.
There's a motion and a second by Spataro and Summers. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor. That's the agenda is adopted. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Unless there are any changes that I need to know about from my council colleagues or Madam Clerk, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 22nd, 2025.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2025. All in favor?
Yes.
We're going to have to rehearse that. That motion passes unanimously. We're on to public forum. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern not on the agenda during public forum. Each person's comment shall be limited to 4 minutes. Each person is entitled to speak on any non-agendized item only once at any meeting. Brief questions by council members for clarifications may be posed and answered, and council members may make requests that items be placed on future agendas. But in accordance with state law, no substantive discussion or action may take place unless and until the matter properly appears on the agenda. And I made that one note earlier about public comment, and folks are welcome to comment on the matter that was taken off calendar. I'll open public forum for anybody wishing to speak to your city council tonight.
Hello. My name is Michelle Lou Koval.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've sent in a bunch of comments, I think totaling 4 now. 2 earlier this week, 1 just right now, and 1 that was done from 2023 when the code was being adopted. I have a lot to say, and obviously I don't have enough time, so I please ask you to read thoroughly all of the items that I put in public comment, especially the one that I just submitted about 20 minutes ago, which takes Director DeRosa's presentation and comments on each slide. My question is, my statement, definition of misleading, to lead in a wrong direction or into a mistaken action or belief, often by deliberate deceit. Please remember those words. They are in my slide presentation that I sent to you. Along with all, I know my statement number 2 is very long. I really appreciate if people read it, but I will take a few minutes just to say a few words right now. Why are we being misled so much? Is this ethical? Is this ethical? If individuals raising concerns are met with retaliation or false accusations, that's a serious ethical and potential legal concern. I'm saddened that we're not talking about this today in the public amongst everybody. I think moving this to another date is a show of a lack of attention from highly paid individuals to put the effort and time into understanding the zoning codes that were presented and what was being misled to you all and to the public. I demand transparency. These are not just rhetorical questions. They are about the integrity of the public process, the trust in our institutions, and the right of the citizens to engage without fear of retaliation. What is the truth? Who's going to tell the truth? I really urge you all to read the one that I just sent, which is the presentation with comments. I have combed through all the documents, and I've combed through the letters and the information presented. It is unjust what is happening to us here. I don't believe that the word uncovered should be included. It is not a clerical edit. It is a significant change to the way the medium density residential is going to be calculated. The background says, if you look at my slides, that these were put together because of public comments that were saying that the new housing developments were too large and out of character. Those said new houses that were too large, I think those were in the 820. And this code amendment is affecting the medium density residential calculations. So come on, where is the transparency? Also, other people made public comments. I sent in the comment from 2023, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Others wishing to present to your city council tonight on this item or other items of general concern that are not on the agenda.
Okay. Christine Hale,
Welcome.
Madrona Avenue. I generally don't like to public comment. And I didn't know Michelle was going to say that. But I feel compelled to speak tonight due to a deeply troubling sequence of events, including the mischaracterization of an unauthorized code change, an unjust campaign against a concerned citizen, and apparent retaliation that threatens the integrity of our civic process. This all began with a simple question. When and where was this code change approved? What followed was deeply alarming. A fabricated police report, efforts to discredit a resident, and the obstruction of a project in the community. These actions have had a chilling effect on others who might consider asking questions or participating in oversight. Will they or their projects be targeted for speaking up? It's been said that the situation escalated because Dan Hale hired an attorney. That's what it says in this claim. That only happened after police were wrongly sent to our home with a fabricated claim and after months of being stonewalled when trying to get clarity. It took another couple of months to get an answer to the attorney's letter as well. Meanwhile, the project stalled. Let's be clear, it took an entire year between the approval of the draft code and the publication of the final document, a document that included this change and other unacknowledged changes. We've repeatedly asked for a complete list of those changes and have received nothing. That lack of transparency speaks volumes. Everything suggests this change was not legally approved. Perhaps that's why there were 4 months of internal wrangling about how to handle it. How much public money was spent on legal work to justify or hide what may have been an unlawful change? If it was just a clerical edit, why not just say that immediately? And why retaliate against the person who simply asked? This code is complex. It's hard for people to understand. This change is not minor. It has real practical implications, and it deserves full public scrutiny. If we don't address this now, the unintended consequences will ripple far beyond this one incident. Transparency, accountability, and fairness must be non-negotiable in local government. Anything less undermines the trust of the people that you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Last chance for public comment. Okay, seeing no one approach the podium, I will close public comment, bring it back to the council. We're going to go on to item 7, reports by staff, city council, future agenda items, and 1234 reports. We had a closed session immediately preceding this matter, so I'll turn to Mr. Walsh to give a summary of what happened there.
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, Mayor, we had a closed session immediately prior to this, that was a special meeting to discuss labor negotiations with our bargaining units, and there's no reportable action from that item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Camello, other reports?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to call upon Program Manager Andrew Bradley, Director Jens, and Director Leach to make the announcements.
Wow, we got everybody here today. Where's Chief Sorensen? Mr. Bradley, welcome.
Thank you. This is just a quick announcement to the community that we are seeking volunteers for important committee assignments. We have positions available on the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee, or ATSC, the Library Board of Trustees, Parks and Rec Commission, the Planning Commission. Applications are due on or before June 13th at 5 p.m. And you can get to that from the homepage of our website. Most of the openings are due to people terming out, so those people are also welcome to reapply.
All right. Yes, we encourage people to join our committees and help your city council in your city. We have a pretty robust committee system here, and it's in particular the more recent committees, the Finance Committee and the Wastewater and Water Committee, doing a lot of good work for our community. Mr. Jans, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. 2 quick announcements for you. One, as you see on the screen, is a quick update on the progress of the fireworks fundraising based on direction at the last council meeting. So we've set a goal of $30,000 to be raised in community donations and sponsorships by May 23rd. We have approximately $12,000 that's received, and we have a few other verbal pledges that are in the works, but didn't want to count the money until it's officially received. So just want to let everyone know that there are, for those that are interested in supporting the fireworks, there are sponsorship packages at varying tiers, and we also have open community donation options. So you're welcome to come visit us at the Parks and Recreation office. We have also received feedback, and so we set up a GoFundMe account for easier donation process. And if anyone is so inclined, that QR code is on the screen and is live. So if anyone wants to pull out their phones as we're talking, you're welcome. It is on our website as well. So we'll continue to work on that, and we'll have an update for the council at their next meeting, if not sooner.
All right.
Second quick, yes.
If I could ask a question, Director Johns. When's the drop dead date for donations? Like the do or die date where you have to know if we've hit the limit or we just need to move on?
Our intent is so we've been speaking with the potential fireworks contractor, and they've been very, very patient. I spoke with them actually yesterday, and so they're willing to wait for us as we're moving through this process. They understand it's not a guarantee that we'll move forward with the show. So we've set May 23rd as the deadline, with the intent at your May 27th meeting we'll be able to provide a formal update on whether we're moving forward or not. Sooner though.
Just write a check for $20,000 today, Mr. Barrick, and we'll get it done. All right. No, I'm just kidding you. Go ahead, Mr. Jens.
And the second one is a separate event, but one that we're excited to be bringing back for the third year. On May 30th, we'll have Noche Comunitaria de Football, our community soccer night, which will be hosted most likely, or I guess I should say, I'll maybe hopefully not, at the St. Helena High School. And the reason being is if our local high school baseball team makes it to the championship game, we'll actually have to relocate to the middle school. So we're certainly pulling for the baseball team. If they do make it to the championship, we will relocate over to the middle school. But that is Friday, May 30th at 5 p.m. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in participating in a soccer tournament, but also if you just want to come out for a fun evening of food, music, community prizes, and other fun. So we look forward to seeing the community out there.
All right. As always, excellent work by your team. Mr. Leach, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members and public. Just a really quick update on what's happening with the downtown Main Street Phase 1A sidewalk rehab project. That's, again, between Adams and Pine. Today, as a matter of fact, as timing would work out, we did receive from Caltrans one significant milestone in the permit approval process with them, which is called the right-of-way certification. So next we move into what's called the E76 phase, and we're, again, planning on building this project late summer, early fall. So with that, I'll field any questions you might have.
Describe the project.
Curb gutter, sidewalk removal, trees, benches, bike racks, trash cans, again, from Pine to Adams.
Both sides of the street.
Correct.
So Lyman Park, that area?
Yes, removing all of the existing pavers and replacing everything with concrete.
All right. Other comments or questions on that issue? Looking forward to having that done.
As are we. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leach. Anything else, Mr. Camello? All right. Well, my city council and my city staff, our city council, have given me 4 proclamations to read tonight. So we'll see how many I can get done in a short period of time. I plan to read them all. Tonight, I'm pleased to have a proclamation recognizing May as Historic Preservation Month, a proclamation recognizing June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month, a proclamation for National Public Works Week, and a proclamation for National Public Police Week. And so I'm going to go to the podium, and I'm going to start with the Historic Preservation Month proclamation. And if there's somebody there from that community, you can stand by me, make a few comments, but I will read this to the public first. And then LGBTQ Pride Month, Public Works Week, and Police Week. And I know we have staff members who are going to comment on that, so welcome. If you desire. What is your name? Christine, yes. Okay, thank you. Welcome. All right, let me turn this and. All right. Folks, my staff is probably going, you're going to read every single one of these? Yes, I'm going to. So that's how your mayor works. No, you did. Thank you very much. Historic Preservation Month, May 2025. Whereas the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 inaugurated the National Historic Preservation Act, championing the protection and adaptive reuse of America's historic, cultural, and archaeological treasures. The St. Helena community is home to a rich and varied architectural heritage, including historic barns, agricultural buildings, stone winery structures, a distinctive downtown district, and significant homes representing every era of design. Whereas since its founding in 1974, Napa County Landmarks has been pivotal in safeguarding our architectural heritage through education, advocacy, and direct action, ensuring that our historical landscape endures for future generations. Napa County Landmarks enhances community engagement and economic vitality by organizing events and programs that highlight the importance and benefits of preserving our historical environment. Whereas Napa County Landmarks honors the dedication of individuals and groups throughout the year, celebrating outstanding efforts in restoration and adaptive reuse that exemplify best practices in historic preservation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Doring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, along with my council colleagues, do hereby proclaim May as Historic Preservation Month, recognizing Napa County landmarks and the vital role of historic preservation in enhancing our quality of life strengthening our communities, promoting economic development, and fostering a deeper connection to our shared heritage. We love our bridges, we love our barns. I've been thinking more about the Signorelli barn, one of our great barns in town.
Yes.
And one of the things that it occurred to me, I think we in public office tend to think about barns and that particular one as a functional space, but there's also the symbolic representation of that space and speaks to our agrarian history, and it's important just as it is for that purpose.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking more about our structures, our bridges, which we love in our community. I will give that to you and invite you to make a very brief presentation. Thank you.
Very brief.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to say that we are featuring the barn, the Signorelli barn, as part of our barn tour in St. Helena on Sunday from 1 to 5. And we have a special deal now, especially for the community, only $25 a ticket. You get to see 5 barns. It includes some music and some art and some artistry. Also, we have $15,000 of scholarships that we give away every year to high school seniors. 5 St. Helena seniors this year win that scholarship. And then the last thing, we give away coloring books to third graders, and that's 1,200 third graders throughout the county. And I just made some deliveries up here for the kids, for the books. So we really appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your good work. All right. Do we have somebody who will receive the LGBTQ plus Pride Month? Welcome. Come on up. Well, you can sit there for a second. Sorry. Yeah, because you don't want to stand next to me as I read this thing, but this proclamation, but I'm very pleased to read this proclamation. As I stated, this is LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 2025. Whereas June, not sure of that. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Whereas June is commemorated around the globe as International Gay Pride Month to honor and celebrate the history, achievements, and contributions of LGBTQ plus people. The city of St. Helena celebrates the vast diversity of its citizens and visitors, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and seeks to ensure a safe, healthy, and inclusive place for all citizens, visitors, and their families. Whereas the city of St. Helena strives to be a community that offers equal opportunity to its citizens, all of whom deserve to live with dignity and respect, free from fear and violence, and protected against discrimination, regardless of gender, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Whereas the city of St. Helena is committed to support and encourage diversity in the workplace and throughout the community. Whereas June has become a symbolic month in which lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, and intersex people, their families, friends, and allies come together in various celebrations of freedom and pride. Whereas California has been a leader in advancing the civil rights of the LGBTQ plus citizens, and while further progress is needed, it is important to recognize and celebrate the substantial gains that have been achieved. And now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Paul Jameson Doring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, along with my council colleagues, do hereby proclaim June 2025 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month, and invite everyone to reflect on ways we can all advance the rights and protections of LGBTQ plus people and live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding. And I invite you to receive this proclamation, which I'm proud to give to you, and make a few comments. Thank you. What is your name?
Kristina Skinner.
Christine, you have the mic.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kristina Skinner. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm a youth advocate on the Napa side of LGBTQ Connection and proud alumnus of St. Helena High School. As a city council, to lead with compassion and courage. Let the young people in our community know through your decisions, investments, and presence that they are safe, supported, and seen. We don't just need more policies. We need a promise that every LGBTQ youth in this town has a future they can look forward to. Let's continue to build a Napa Valley where every young person knows they matter. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. National Public Works Week, May 18 to 24, 2025. And this is entitled People, Purpose, and Presence. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of St. Helena. These infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. Whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in St. Helena to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that the St. Helena City Council, including your mayor, city staff, and the citizens of St. Helena do hereby designate the week, May 18 to 24, 2025, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. And I'll invite Director Leach to make a comment. I'll hold this for a second. Congratulations to that.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and residents. Yes, so Public Works Week, very exciting time. If you don't know what Public Works is, please come see me, and I'll explain to you the world that we maintain on your behalf as the citizens of St. Helena. And the staff that do this work, they really love the work that they do. I mean, there's a high level of commitment, high level of integrity to serve the community, to use your taxpayer dollars, to use your rates for sewer and water for the benefit of the community. And we really enjoy what we do. I'm a little biased because I love public works, but I've been willing to talk about other things as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Chief Hartley, have you brought a demonstration poster with you? Okay. All right. Okay, one final proclamation. Thank you for your patience as we move on with our city business. This is National Police Week, May 11 through May 17, 2025. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Whereas the members of law enforcement agency of the city of St. Helena play an important role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and the members of our department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, protecting them against violence or disorder, and protecting the innocent against deception and the vulnerable against oppression or intimidation. Whereas our police department has grown to be a modern and technologically scientific law enforcement agency which unceasingly provides a vital public service. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Paul Jamison Doring, Mayor of the City of St. Helena, along with my council colleagues, do hereby proclaim the week of May 11 through May 17, 2025 as National Police Week in the City of St. Helena. All citizens are asked to join in commemorating their law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their communities have established for themselves the rights and security of all citizens. Chief Hartley, pleased to give this to you and allow you to make a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
With that, sure.
Thank you, council members, and thank you, my police officers and police staff, for standing in the back of the room. This is about you guys. and honoring all the hard work that you do for our community. And to our community who has always stood behind us and supported us along the way. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to all of you who've come and who are serving our community. All right, I got through it. Let me take a drink. Thank you all for receiving those presentations and your comments. All right. All right, we'll get back on track here. So I think that is all the proclamations and presentations. There doesn't appear to be any other staff briefings tonight, Mr. Carmelo. We're on to the consent items, consent calendar. Members of the council or the public present at the meeting may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of considering alternative action for extended discussion or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions. Look to my colleagues first to see if there are any items that need further clarification or comment, or anybody in the public looking to have an item pulled. Mr. Mann, which item would you like pulled? 10.3. 10.3. All right. Towser apiaries, the apiary contract. All right, Mr. Camello, you're gonna be stung with this one. Any other items? Okay, then I'll look for a motion to adopt the balance of the consent calendar with the exception of 10.3.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Summers. All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
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 Or yes. Any opposed? None? All right. So that part of the consent calendar is passed. Item 10.3, you may want to have if you have a question before we give a staff report, if you do, you can come to the mic and. Okay. You want to have a very brief report? What's that? Okay. I mean.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have Director Leach make a brief report.
And that's fine. Director Leach, just a brief, I mean, we have a report, but maybe a brief description of what this is, and then we'll take public comment.
Certainly, Mary. Just a little bit of the backstory. Towser Apiaries, we've been working with them for 2 years now. They do beehives for the benefit of the ag community. They've been setting these hives out at the wastewater treatment plant spray fields in a select location. Over the last 2 years, we've coordinated that location with the advocates of the community forest. So this year we moved it to a different location and further away from the community forest. But this is actually a formal agreement. Instead of kind of operating on an encroachment permit temporary basis, this is an established agreement for which we can rescind at times. There's termination clauses and such. And with that, I will.
Any initial questions or need for clarification? I'll open to public comment. Mr. Mann, if you'd like to comment on the matter.
Hi there, everyone. Elaine DeMann here, wearing my California naturalist and climate steward hats this evening. I ask that this item be pulled from the consent calendar because I think it warrants greater discussion and more information than was given you in the staff report. This is one of those things that seems innocent enough, perhaps even beneficial, like planting French broom to stabilize cut banks, something that has turned into an environmental nightmare due to its proliferation and extreme flammability. But my main concern here has to do with the proximity to the community forest and all the work that is being done by Paul Azimuth, numerous volunteers, Sustainable St. Helena, and the Napa Resource Conservation District. This is not just about the redwood forest, but all the additional plantings of native trees and shrubs in the attempts of reaching some kind of natural environmental harmony, if you will. And part of that bigger picture includes native birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and the driving force behind much of this, insects, including our native bees, which play an integral role in making everything work together. Unfortunately, honeybees, which have a range of about 5 kilometers, are not native, and other than producing honey, any other benefits are very limited. In fact, at this particular location, they will be competing with our native pollinators, which we do need to, among other things, help sustain biodiversity and build a resilient forest community. And while it is true that honeybees can be critical for agriculture, research has also found that planting strips of native plants along agricultural fields to support native bees can increase crop yields significantly. In addition, having mostly honeybees on the fields can actually reduce the rate of pollination for some crops, which in turn reduces fruit set. This is because the honeybees outforage the wild bees and expose them to pathogens, reducing their numbers. The consensus among those studying this is that honeybees should be restricted to agricultural lands and only present if they are absolutely needed for crop pollination. Another problem is that honeybees sometimes prefer to forage on non-native invasive plants, pollinating them as they feed, encouraging them to proliferate, which in turn crowds out the native flora so necessary to native bees. And when invasive plants take over native habitat, it can lead to the extinction of numerous native species. Studies of crop pollination have found that pollination is more reliable and more resilient over time when more species are present. In other words, reliance on one pollinator, such as honeybees, is not a good strategy, even for big agriculture. Farmers are learning that native bees increase the overall pollination of crops by working in cold, wet weather and in other conditions where honeybees don't function as well. So while honeybees definitely have their place, this might not be the best place. So I'm not suggesting that you vote no on this proposal out of hand. I do request that you please wait on this one to get some input from biologists first. And this could be as simple as talking to the folks planting the community forest and Paul Asmuth, who, as far as I know, was unaware of this until I brought it to his attention. Just so you know, I love honey. I'd love to have some beehives myself, but I think something on this scale really needs a more thorough look and input from all the stakeholders. And I did just get a message from Paul Asmuth, who was the one who was planting the community forest. And his words to me were, if you go, keep it simple, meaning here. Commercial bees compete with native bee species. Commercial bees compete with local honeybee producers, and transferring large quantities of bees from outside the area can introduce pathogens to local bee populations. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that.
I still have 4 minutes according to this.
We'll be sweet to you, but not that sweet. Any comments about that, Mr. Leach? Is this one where we need to get a little bit more information, do you think, or what is your, I'll turn it back to my colleagues, but what are your thoughts in terms of discussions with Mr. Asmuth and others about these topics?
I'm puzzled that Mr. Asmuth didn't know about it because we had internally talked about communicating and coordinating with him. So I'm okay if you want to pause for another session that we can kind of circle back with Mr. Asmuth. To kind of get his feedback. But again, we intentionally put the location of the hives significantly further away than they had been previously.
Okay. And then the main intent of these honeybees is to produce honey for a private company?
It is, but also to provide pollination of agricultural crops in the area.
I mean, in Napa County?
Yes.
Okay, because I noticed the company was from I guess Solano County.
Yeah, they're from Woodland, I think is where their headquarters are. But you see their hives all throughout Napa County, Solano County.
And they've been at this location for a couple of years, I assume, right? Okay. Questions, or Mr. Camello? Sure.
Just to be clear, I've had a couple conversations with Mr. Asmuth, and in fact, he came to our presentation or study session some time ago where this topic was discussed. So I know he's aware of the presence of the bees. The question may be that he didn't know what kind of bees, because I know he knows about the bees.
Okay. Well, let's, I would recommend that we may have other questions that we might want answered, but I recommend that we get together with him and postpone this for a duration. But are there other questions that we want answered while our staff and Mr. Asmuth and maybe somebody with deep knowledge could opine on some of these issues? Ms. Deasy, sure.
Yeah, I feel, haven't read further than the staff reports, so I don't know, but it's only $500 that we charge, or am I misreading that number?
Correct.
All right. Other comments? Are you in accordance with my request that we postpone this and allow the parties to work through some of these issues and come back? We do, I think Mr. Mann has raised some good points that none of us, I mean, I don't have that kind of expertise. That level I do know about bees, but not at that level. Maybe have another discussion about it and make sure that we are, it's not a money-making operation for us. I don't think that's the intent.
Correct.
But we don't want to do harm, I guess, is the question here. If we're doing harm, we want to try to avoid harm, so.
Certainly.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
We'll postpone that matter, and we'll bring it back. I don't think I need any kind of a motion for that, Mr. Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay. Okay. As you all know, item 11.1 was pulled earlier in our calendar, and so that public hearing will not happen tonight. And so we'll move on to 11.2. I'll just read this for the benefit of our community. Introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending sections 13.04, 100, 13.04, 130 of Article 1, Chapter 13 of the St. Helena Municipal Code, and Section 1320.020 and of Chapter 1320, Title 13 of the Municipal Code, regarding changes to utility billing cycle for water service and sewer service from bi-monthly to monthly billing, revise the bill due date provisions, and eliminate references to delinquency penalties. Sounds like all very reasonable action, but Mr. Kamel, I'll let you introduce the item. I'll open the public hearing, and then you can introduce the item, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just introduce our Finance Manager, Martin Beltran, to make a presentation.
Welcome, Mr. Beltran. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So staff has evaluated potential changes to our utility billing process to streamline how we charge for water and sewer services. And there are 3 recommendations, as our mayor read out loud, to Title 13 of the city's municipal code being presented to City Council for consideration. The first is an amendment to transition from our current bi-monthly billing to monthly billing. And so it's important to note that this is not going to change the impact on the cost of what a customer will be paying for their utility bill. The only difference is that a customer will now receive 12 bills, make 12 payments instead of the 6 that they do currently in a 1-year time frame. The second proposed change is reducing the utility bill due date from a 30-day period to 21-day window. And that's important because when you have a 1 month or a monthly billing cycle, if you keep it at 30 days, there's going to be some crossing over from the time you receive a payment to when you're generating a new bill. So that's going to improve billing statement accuracy by allowing ample time for payments to be posted to the customer accounts prior to processing the new bills for the following month. And then the third proposed change is eliminating late penalties and interest charges on delinquent utility bills. So this proposed change aligns with other public utilities such as PG&E. So we're proposing going away from charging late penalties. And all this is made possible by the city's CIP smart meter replacement project. So having the capability of reading the meters more real time is both a benefit for the city and the customer. And so that's going to allow us to be able to bill more frequently as opposed to on the bi-monthly schedule. The amended ordinance and a copy of the updated monthly rate schedule will be brought back to City Council for adoption at the next meeting. And so tonight we just are here for a public hearing, and we're available to answer any questions if there's any.
All right. Any initial questions from my colleagues? All right. Let's take public comment. Is there anyone wishing to opine on this matter? You laid it out fairly clearly, Mr. Beltran. I think it's all good news for our citizens in general. Yeah, we'll bring it back to council. Any comments from my colleagues in terms of direction to give on this? I don't see anyone. Oh, I don't see anyone wishing to speak. I'll look for a motion. I'm going to take the time to
make a motion.
I'll close the public hearing and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
You'll make a motion to Adopt the staff recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, without reading the whole thing, is that good enough, Mr. Walsh? All right.
Yes.
There's a motion to adopt the staff recommendation on 11.2 as I read. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Mr. Summers is on a roll tonight. He seconds the motion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Spatafaro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
and Mayor Doring.
Yes, thank you for that. Quick action, Ms. Beltran, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good news for our community. That is one item where my wife does lobby with me from time to time, saying, why, is she getting a late charge, or, not a late charge, but, when there's that overlap, I paid that. Okay, all right. So I won't have to listen to that anymore. Sorry, honey. Yeah, I'm going down All right. So we're on to item 11.3, consideration and proposed approval of a resolution approving the annexation of the property known as 1766 Sulphur Springs Avenue, St. Helena, into the St. Helena Municipal Sewer District. I'll turn to you, Mr. Camella, introduce the staff member and the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director Leach is already in position.
He is. Thank you, Mr. Leach.
Certainly, Mayor, council members. This item, this is something we bring to you from time to time where property owner wants to annex into the city of St. Helena Sewer District. And so there's a process associated with this. Staff report talks about the previous actions on this particular property. So we'll just walk through the agenda item very quickly. This is a public hearing for annexation into this particular district by this particular applicant, consistent with the municipal code as cited. There's a process that once you approve this here, that we execute paperwork through Napa County and Board of Equalization. Again, this is the initial step. The city does not extend the sewer main to serve this parcel. That is fully borne by the applicant, and whether they want to enter into a reimbursement agreement with other property owners, that's really at their discretion. Next slide, please. And you can see where the property is located on the middle lower side where the bouncing red arrow is located on Sulphur Springs Road. Next slide, Avenue. And the recommendation before you is that this particular parcel is in fact annexed into the St. Helena Municipal Sewer District. And I'll field any questions you might have.
Fairly straightforward. Any questions to clarify any issues before I open it for public comment? My colleagues see none. At this point, I will open the public hearing and take public comment at this point. Anyone wishing to opine on this matter? I have just one question and maybe one recommendation for the future. It was difficult. I think is this a second reading or the first reading?
This is the first reading. The previous action was to set tonight as a public hearing.
I don't recall actually who the property owner is. I think it will be helpful for me, at least for when I go through a conflicts check, to determine who the actual property owner is. I don't know who that is.
Okay.
I guess I can go look back, but just to make sure that I don't represent somebody and inadvertently voting on a project. But that would be my only comment there. I don't see any folks wishing to address your council on this item, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the recommendation from staff.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a second, and just let me get the language right here. To adopt the resolution approving the annexation of the property known as 1766 Sulphur Springs Avenue, St. Helena, California, APN number 009-350-024, into the St. Helena Municipal Sewer District, number 1, MSD annexation number 151. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrick,
Yes.
Spatafaro,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deasy,
Yes.
and Mayor Doring.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. Moving along. We have no old business tonight. We do have some new business. And so this is the presentation of our fiscal 2025-26 and fiscal year 2026-27 proposed operating budget. I'm sure we'll have a presentation and we'll take public comment. Looking forward to it. Mr. Camello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll be assisted by Admin Services Director Mandy Kellogg. Just want to, before we go into the actual presentation, make some general comments. One is that as we prepared the budget over the last few months, we looked into how best to minimize the impact on our community. And as you'll see, we are not proposing any cuts to our library, to the Parks and Rec Department, to either of the emergency services departments, and we certainly are not cutting our paving program. We do, however, want to point out that the cuts that we are proposing will have detrimental impacts on various stakeholders and including the city itself, and will necessarily have a staff less capacity to address community needs. We also want to point out that even with the current level of funding that is now, the city has been challenged in serving the community, as you can see from the workload that the city has, as well as in order to challenge to achieve our mission, each department's mission. As you can see, the city has been, over the last decade or so, underinvested in our upkeep of our streets, our parks, our city facilities, and so on. So those challenges are not new, and further budget cuts will only make those more difficult. With that, I'll dive into our presentation. So the overview I want to make or general comments I want to make is that, first of all, the city's finances are stable but stressed. What I mean by that is, I used to say cities has strong reserves and stable revenues, and people took umbrage to that, so I'm saying it a little differently, using the word stress to make sure that I underscore that this is not, even if we had even if we have the 49% reserves as we currently do, those are dwindling, and we are not taking into account some of our long-term needs. I also want to point out that at 49%, we are still in a better shape than many cities. But we are fortunate that we've actually accounted for some of our needs, and so when you take those into account, we are not in that great a shape. Revenues are growing, but very slightly. It's growing as estimated about 4.4%. So it's growing, but expenses are outpacing them. We do have adequate reserves for now, but we will need to obviously be fiscally prudent as time goes on, because we have only finite amount of reserves. As I said earlier, we have underinvested in infrastructure, parks, and so on, and so our needs right now are much greater than normal. And I also want to point out that part of the reason we have not historically maintained our assets and been able to complete projects is because we have not had a stable staffing, and I think we need to strive for that now. So these are our goals, the city council goals, and one of the guiding principles we used in developing the budget was achieving the city council goals. Now, I just want to point out that this city council did go through a retreat, and we have yet to bring the refinements and the updates to the city council, which we will in the subsequent weeks. But for now, we are working with this list of city council goals that were prepared originally a couple years ago. So a couple of the projects that we are currently working on and will be working on in the next couple of years include the Streets Master Plan, the Parks Master Plan, and I just want to stop here and say that in addition to those items, the discolored water has been a particular focus of staff, and we think that it's critical that we address that issue. Now, we hope to eliminate it someday, but in the meantime, we at least want to see that the issue be mitigated, because a city of our size, or for that matter any size, shouldn't have discolored water coming through its taps. We'll be going through a municipal service review through the LAFCO, which will take an enormous amount of time from key staff members. We also are in the process of selling 2 city properties, and of course there are potential for other properties in the future. A 5-year CIP is about $70 million, and my sense is that in the next couple of years we'll be doing a bulk of them, and so staff and public works are gearing up to achieve those high expectations. So as you can see, our general split in our revenues hasn't changed a whole lot. 36% of our revenues are quite stable and growing in property taxes, 25% is from sales tax, TOT. Sales tax is, sorry, the other way around. Sales tax is 25%, TOT is 21%, and other revenue sources is 19%. And we are assuming roughly the same range for the next 2 years. As you can see, property taxes have grown a little bit, and we are projecting that they will grow. Sales tax is kind of flat, in fact, was down a little bit, or it is projected to be down. TOT is growing. We are assuming 3% the next year based on the input we have received from the hotelers, and the other revenues is growing just in a very small way. Expenses, on the other hand, are growing in double digits for the most part, except for health insurance, which, by the way, I was shocked about, that went by only 4%, has been 3 to 8%. 6 to 8%. But as you can see, all the other areas are growing quite significantly. Here's our pension liability, and this is something that's less understood. If you think about it, between 2020 and 2025, it has gone out by about 4%, by $4 million, or between, if you look at 23, where it dipped and went back up to $16 million in 25. And while that may seem that we are still in pretty good shape in that we are 72% approximately, my goal is 80% or higher, 100 would be even better. It's grown about $1 million a year. And of course, our revenues haven't gone up by $1 million a year. So this is a significant and noteworthy item that we need to address. This is a breakdown of our expenditures by department. As you can see, Public Works, 3 departments, fire, police, and Public Works, are about 65% of the total budget. And so, given what they do, it's not as flexible or easily adjusted. So where we end up is, even with $1.94 million in reductions, we are left with about $1.7 million in difference, which we will be withdrawing from reserves, which means over 2 years, even with those cuts, we will be withdrawing about $3 million from reserves. Of course, that does not even account for, I remember, all the other items that we are not budgeting for, not really accounting for. And this is very important because a few weeks ago when I brought to you a report on structural deficit, there was a question about what is our real deficit. And I said at the time that our base deficit, just based on our operating budget, is $3 million. But that does not take into account, and thanks to the wisdom of the council, the direction that staff had received, that we should be taking into account long-term expenditures or long-term needs, and that includes long-term liabilities, including pension, our underinvestment, and the amount we need to put aside for asset replacement and so on. So when you include all of those items, I estimated it to be about $6 million. And then if you include further, that was $7 million. And if you include long-term asset replacements or new buildings and new things basically, that's another $3 million. That's how we came to range from anywhere from $3 million to $10 million, depends on how you define an ongoing deficit. I think we can all agree that it is at least $3 million. So, thanks to the thoughtful work of our executive team, we have identified potentially $1.94 million in reductions. Now, we understand that not all of those you will necessarily like. You're free to use that list that we'll be providing you to make changes or add to that list. I just want to also point out that we have limited, thanks to council direction, labor cost to the inflation factor of 3%, which is that in 2024, general inflation was 3%. So essentially, staff will be getting the inflation factor of 3% and nothing more. We have also frozen 2 executive level positions that happen to become vacant. And that, again, as I said earlier, leaves us with still $1.7 million withdrawal from reserves. So here's a list of items that we have cut from the budget. And some of these are from our current budget that we've been using each year. And some of them, for example, the election expense, we had entered into or included in the budget, but now we are finding that we need to remove it. Now, of course, if you choose to have an election next year, in the next second fiscal year, we'll need to potentially put that back in. But here's a initial list of reductions proposed by staff.
Was that $90,000 expense projected to be used this year or next year?
We were originally, well, it's originally supposed to be used potentially this year.
Okay.
But we removed it. But again, as I said, if we need it next year, we'll need to put it back in. So that.
I guess the point I'm making is that decision has not been made yet, right?
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Continue on. I have a couple other questions on this slide before you move
Yeah.
on, but go ahead and finish if you have. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. So I also want to share with you that on the revenue side, staff is always looking at opportunities for grants, and we've been applying quite aggressively over the last few years. As you can see, we have been successful in receiving quite a bit of grants, even though demographically we are at a disadvantage in competing for grants from the federal and state government. And finally, I want to show you, not finally, but I want to show you on the vacancy chart that we shared with you some time ago. If you look at the first section, which shows a total savings of about $645,000. As we mentioned earlier, we are freezing the assistant city manager and city clerk position, as well as the lead underground utilities position. So, and then we had previously agreed that we'll underfill the management analyst position to an accounting tech. And then the ones below are the recommended positions for immediate hire. We have, that totals altogether $576,000. We will continue, the current budget as proposed will continue without change the grants that the council has previously given to the 3 nonprofits, local nonprofits, the Boys and Girls Club, the Rianda House, and Up Valley Family Centers. Which means that we, I won't read the whole thing, but we will have an unassigned balance drop from $11 million approximately to about 9.4, which goes down to the net balance or net position at the end of the first year is $42.6 million. Similarly, it drops to $7.8 million in this year 2, which is 35%, but still above the council's policy for reserves at 30%. This is what it looks like in terms of revenues and expenditures based on our current projections. Of course, based on your direction, that will change. I should also point out that this is a draft budget. Based on your direction today, we will come back with a revised, updated budget for action by you on June 10th.
Mr. Camelo, why don't you go back to that slide?
Certainly.
Tell the public what that slide means. We can barely see the colors of the lines, but a little bit more explanation for members of the audience and folks watching at home. Just that trend there on that graph. That's the one I was referring to.
Oh, sorry, which
The last slide you left off on.
Oh, the expenditures and revenues, yeah.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard to decipher that, and the public needs to know what that trend means.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, I misunderstood. So the green, I think it's green, line shows the revenues, which starts in 22 being above the expenditure line, and then over time, it ends up in 27 being below the expenditure line. So that's what we are projecting. In other words, the difference between those 2 lines for the next 2 years is being made up by use of reserves.
Understood, and
Yeah.
that's good clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Director Kellogg is going to continue the water slides.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So this is going to be an update on the water enterprise. And so this first slide here shows you our water fund revenues. And you can see that in our fiscal year 26 and 27 proposed, they're actually coming in lower than what was originally budgeted in FY25. Part of this is as a result of the fact that the water usage that we're realizing is lower than what was actually projected in the rate study. The rate study projected a baseline water usage of 1,300 acre feet, and we're realizing actually 1,100 acre feet. So we have taken proactive measures in this upcoming budget and reduced the projected revenues by approximately 16%. This next slide shows an overview of the operating expenses on the water side. You'll see that we do have a decrease going into fiscal year 26. That decrease mostly is a result of capital contributions that were made during FY25 for CIP projects. And then you'll see in fiscal year 27, we're just coming in slightly higher. The bulk of those expenses related to water is in the Public Works Department. So we're starting the fiscal year with $6.5 million, and then we have our revenues over expenditures yield an increase in the fund balance. We're actually increasing the fund balance and not doing a full transfer for capital of the difference between the revenues and expenditures, so we can maintain the council's policy of a 10-month operating reserve. The water enterprise does have a requirement of debt coverage of 1.2, and this is projecting that we'll be above that debt coverage requirement at 1.3. And some of the big CIP that's being delivered in the upcoming fiscal year totals $14.4 million. That includes the Napa Intertie project, the Bell Canyon Intake Tower, and some system-wide pipeline improvements. And on to the wastewater operations fund. The wastewater operations, you see a huge spike there in revenues in fiscal year 24. That was related to money that we received for the wastewater plant from the USDA loan. And then those projections that we have for FY25 are actually in line with what was projected in the rate study. So we've continued with those same projections from the rate study in 26 and 27. And here you can see our I'm sorry, I don't have a total on that FY27 column. Apologize for that, but the expenses are pretty flat going from 26 to 27. There's not too much increase there. And again, the largest expense for this fund is in Public Works. So we start the year with a $2 million in reserves. We end up with a net difference of revenues over expenses of $413,000. We're not recommending a capital contribution because the council policy for the operating reserves in this fund is actually 6 months. We are below that because of the contributions we had to make to CIP for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. And so we're trying to build those reserves back up. On this side, there is a 1.25 debt coverage requirement, and we're coming in about 1.29. So we're going to closely monitor that throughout the year. And then we wanted to show a slide comparison of St. Helena's water bill in comparison to the two neighboring jurisdictions. I know we've been talking a lot about the cost of our water here in St. Helena. And so we put together a chart here, and this is just on the water side only. And this is based on an average user, which is using 5 HCF or 100 cubic feet per month. And you can see that our costs are fairly in line with the other two jurisdictions. And this next slide here has a bunch of different recommendations that we received from the Finance Committee. So starting since January, the Finance Committee was formed, and I think we've had about 8 meetings now where they've fine-combed through the budget and come up with several different recommendations. And I apologize, it's very small because there's a lot on this slide. The first 3 recommendations that they have on there are actually increases to the budget, and these are to fund those liabilities that City Manager Comello mentioned previously. They have a recommendation of a $500,000 contribution into the 115 trust that was recently established to help bring down our unfunded liability on pension obligations. And then that is not included in the budget at this time. There's also a recommendation of $200,000 to pre-fund major building improvements, as well as another $100,000 to pre-fund purchased vehicles and high-cost equipment. And then they have several recommendations of areas that they feel we can look at closer and cut from the budget. And some of them actually were already implemented into the draft budget that was attached to the agenda. Those first 3 items include the freezing of the executive positions, the election expense for FY26, and reducing council contributions for FY27 to match what was put in the budget for FY26, and that was already implemented. And then there's a number of them here that aren't implemented or ones that we need to research further. They had a recommendation of removing $150,000 out of 3 different departments that had listed unidentified vendors for contract services. In addition to that, they had a reduction of $25,000 in the equipment replacement for IT spending. I would like to mention that this isn't necessarily guaranteed that we spend those monies, but we budget it in case there's failure of equipment, so that way we can easily replace it and make sure that we're maintaining our operations. Then they also had a recommendation to reduce the fireworks budget. We notated that was partial because what we did is that we didn't include the normal transfer from general fund into the the fireworks fund of $40,000 that we normally do for the contract. What we did is we budgeted a minimal or a smaller amount there using what already fund balance was available in that fund. So there's no general fund contribution required for what action we have in the budget. And then another recommendation was to fund our CARES program with enterprise funds rather than the general fund. I spoke recently with our city attorney on this, and he feels that this would be a violation of Prop 218 to fund those out of the enterprise funds rather than the general fund. I think we'll get some more clarification in the upcoming weeks, but I think that that may not be something that we can do. And then there was also a recommendation to fund the sidewalk rehab program with Measure U funds. This is not included in the budget, but it is something we're going to research to see if that is an eligible expense for those Measure U funds. Another one that was proposed is we have banking fees related to credit card transactions in the planning department, but also in other departments as well. This is something that they had recommended that we pass this cost on to the customer. From our research that we've done so far, we can't limit this to just one group. So if this is something we're going to do, we need to do it across all credit card transaction fees, which would include our utility bills as well. So this is something we're going to continue to research and bring back to you for your recommendation. And then on the last one there's a $300,000 contribution for the St. Helena to Calistoga Vine Trail project on the cost overrun, and it was required fees for this. We are currently researching this with the city attorney. It appears that at this time, based on how our impact fee study was adopted, we may not be able to do that, but there might be a possibility to amend that impact fee study to make that an eligible expense, but we'll have to bring that back.
I'll just take over from here. So this was just to show you that in 2020, our payment condition index was 49. By 23, it had dropped to 47. And as of last September 24, it is now at 64. So much improvement. And that's because we've been investing in our roadways. Our goal, of course, is to get to, the initial goal was to get to 70, which I hope we'll get to hopefully later this year. I think for stability, we would want to get to 80% and keep it there because obviously it is much cheaper to maintain roadways than have to completely do a rehab and repair. This slide was entered before, actually we have used it previously, just to show you the cost of construction escalation. It can go very high and anywhere from 2.7 to 10%. And of course, the longer we delay on projects, the more it costs us. So part of our strategy on the budget stabilization is that we need to be thinking long-term, and part of that is that we need to support economic development, and that includes building of hotels, at least those that are in the pipeline, both public and private. We also believe that we need to support the development of new stable revenue streams. So we hope to, I'll talk more about that in a minute. We internally have been investing in technology, business transformation. We'll be looking more about business transformation and organizational development to bring more efficiency from our existing organization. We also need to continually explore shared services and efficiency opportunities whenever they make themselves apparent. One of the things I would be remiss if I didn't say that our finance committee is doing a really great job. They've been working very hard. They've been doing a lot of analysis in addition to those 8 meetings I've had. And over the next few months, I would love for them to work on the following, and that is work with us on, at the end of the day, determining what is that amount, what is that nut we want to solve. We need to get that clarity sooner rather than later. Second is that they gave us some input on the cost allocation study, and I think that they have promised to work on this in the summer. They've allocated some time to do that, so I think that would be very beneficial to the city. We, of course, will be engaged in a class income study, and we would love to get their input in that process. And finally, and as I said earlier, most importantly, we want them to, from staff perspective anyway, we would love for them to identify or evaluate revenue options and ultimately make a recommendation to you on the revenue options that might be available. And I say this because as I've gotten emails over the last few weeks, this is not an expenditure issue. We have the size of the city we do. It's really on the revenue side that we need assistance. This is not a new problem. We have been dealing with this for a decade or more. So in summary, city's finances, as I said earlier, are stable but stressed. There's been some good progress, particularly on roads and water systems. Our focus right now is to, among other things, is to address the discolored water phenomenon that's been plaguing the city for a long time. There are some opportunities in the sale of city properties, and as I said earlier, the community has some choices as it relates to revenues. There are some questions that we need decisions on for today, among other things that you'll be discussing. These were, the first two items were not in the budget. These came up afterwards, so it didn't get into our budget. We have been talking to Calistoga. It may be slightly less, but our agreement with them is going to cost probably about $100,000 more than our current budget, so we'll need to incorporate that into the budget. So which means that even if you change nothing else, our deficit spending would increase from just from that line item from $1.7 million to $1.8 million. Similarly, on the CARES program, staff recommends that we increase it from the $85,000 we currently give to $150,000, which means an additional $65,000. The council, as you know, made a decision at the last meeting not to directly reduce rates, but this would be another way in which we can help some of our low-income residents. And finally, wanted to call this out. We will continue to use the overhire of the police officer. It's already in the budget, but we wanted to make sure that you understood that we are not, staff is not recommending that we remove that from the budget. There's great value for it, so we want to continue to fund that position.
Just for clarification, back on the CARES program, so the recommendation, given the Prop 218 issue, is that those funds, those additional funds would come from the general fund, correct, Mr. Camello?
That is correct, yes, sir. Yeah. And I just want to thank the executive team. They've worked incredibly hard over the last few weeks in developing this budget. I know that it was hard. I'll just leave it at that. I also want to thank a few people. Erica Opp has been fantastic, doing a lot of work behind the scenes on the budget. Martin Beltran, our finance manager, who was here earlier. And Sierra, who is one of our new employees, has jumped in there with both feet and been doing a fantastic job. And of course, nothing would happen on the finance without Director Kellogg's assistance. So I'm grateful for all of them for their assistance. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions along with Director Kellogg.
Why don't you go back to that slide that I pointed out earlier?
Yeah.
It's really pretty early in the presentation about the
Reductions?
reductions.
Yeah.
I just had a question on
And I'll
that.
let Ms. Kellogg answer those. Yeah.
Okay. I had a question on the Measure U item, the transfer from GF to street capital. Can you explain that? And how do we get away with doing that? Where's that fund coming from?
So, as you know, the Measure U has a requirement that we contribute a certain amount from general fund monies to the Streets Capital Program for Measure U approved projects. However, it doesn't need to come from a straight transfer, which is what we have been doing in the past. It could actually be accounted for through salaries from employees working on projects that are directly related to the Measure U approved projects. So this is going to require more work on Joe's team to make sure that they're correctly identifying their time towards these projects, and that will make those expenses allowable and be able to count as part of that Measure U MOE requirement. But it does also mean that we're funding that much less towards our streets improvement.
All right, and I understood that. I just want to make sure that that's clarified. Other jurisdictions have been doing that for a number of years, particularly American Canyon. So it's very fancy accounting. So good. I just wanted to call out the nonprofit grant contributions. You had alluded earlier, Mr. Camello, that we'll continue to fund Boys and Girls Club, Up Valley Family Center, and Rianda House. Each have their own separate contracts of $30,000 currently. But that there were, I believe there were $268,000 worth of requests on this particular item, which is a separate section of our nonprofit grants. We typically, I think we give 120 or 125, 120?
120.
So, so this year we'll be giving 75,000, correct, Mr. Camello?
That's
So a
correct.
significant cut there. And I'd like to have a conversation with my colleagues about that because I'm concerned about the more vulnerable in our community. But that's a significant cut for our community, and I just want folks to understand that there's a shared burden there, for sure. Frankly, we've been at the $30,000 level for a while with the three major social service agencies, if you will, that we rely on to do a lot of the work that we would normally be doing ourselves, Mr. Camello, correct?
That's correct. They had actually, a couple of them have come to us and asked for an increase, and we explained that we cannot do that. And yes, they are partners in the sense that if they didn't do this work, we would need to do it.
All right. Okay, just a couple clarifications. Is there any, I'm going to open it for public comment, but I know we're going to dive into this, but folks may have some philosophical questions or details, and we want to do that unless you want to take public comment first. Typically what we do is just, if they're clarifying questions, brief answers, that would be great. But yeah, go ahead, Vice Mayor DZ.
Do a little description also on the general fund to equipment replacement?
Yes, so that was the city pre-funding equipment replacement. So for the past several years, we've been doing a transfer from general fund and placing it in a fund to set aside specifically for that purpose. And so it was used to purchase vehicles. Also, when we had this cyber attack, it allowed us to replace all the damaged computers. Thank you.
Other quick questions? Mr. Barrett, I didn't see you, your hand, but go ahead.
Sorry. First, I'd like to recognize the city for bringing to council a significant reduction in budget. And you exceeded the 5%, however, the devil's in the details. And I have questions around particularly the contract services, because I think it's important that where we're cutting, we're cutting in as smart a way as possible, right? So correct me if I'm wrong here, Director Kellogg, part of those contracts, we have $200,000 in engineering support. Cutting that, do we have a list of projects that would be impacted? I assume we have that engineering support because they have skills that we don't have, that we would rely on.
I would probably have to defer to the Public Works Director, Joe Leach, on that, but I would say that because it's in the general fund, that the majority of those projects would be street-related projects. And again, this could be a strategic way of charging staff time to the projects, and they would be providing some of that engineering support rather than an outside consultant.
Okay, great. If we could get a follow-up there, that would be super. Second, there's $50,000 for grant writing support, and I noticed in one of your slides, we do generate quite a bit in the millions with grant funds. I'd rather spend $50,000 than lose $2 million. So if we could get more detail on that, what the actual impact would be, cutting that number, it would be important for me.
I don't have the exact dollar impact, but basically by cutting that service, it would require staff to do the grant writing. And so it's something that we've done in the past, so it's not like it's not feasible, but it is very time consuming depending upon the type of grant that you're applying for. Some of them have a lot of requirements that you have to build data for, such as like FEMA funding. They're very labor intensive applications. So it's not that we couldn't do them, but there may be opportunities we have to pass up on because we don't have staffing capacity. I can give a particular examples in this recent year when the CDBG program released their notice of availability for funding. We were prepared to apply for a couple of grants through that program. Literally the day they dropped or opened the application period, it closed because they received so many applications. We didn't have staffing capacity to get those applications in that very same day. So there's opportunities that we could potentially miss out on if we didn't have that grant writing support.
And I would just add, to further your point, Mr. Merrick, not only is it going after the grants, but managing the grants, which I'm more concerned about, because if you don't manage your grants properly, you stand a chance of having to pay back the funders. So that, I assume that would be something of concern to our staff and maybe the capacity issues there. Once you get the
Yeah.
money, you have to be a good steward and handle it correctly and legally, correct?
That's correct, and many of the granting agency actually require monthly reporting. So it's somewhat labor intensive, and it's a burden that we'll have to assume in the finance
And
department.
it puts those funds at risk if we're not doing it correctly.
It does. We could potentially have to pay it back, or we could lose the opportunity to be able to apply in the future.
All right. Mr. Merrick.
The other item is the reduction in chamber, the chamber dollars of 100,000. The chamber directly impacts our local businesses, which generates income in and of itself. The better our businesses do, the better we do. And I like that. Face. And lastly, in the staffing report, I don't think it was included in the slide, I could be wrong. I think it was table 5. There was recommendations from the finance committee who's put a lot of effort and time, very impressive work. There was a listing, I think, of around 850,000 of recommended items to add into the budget to address obligated dollars that we need to account for. If I do a scenario and I put that 850,000 into the budget and I remove the 250,000 out here, that from a reserve perspective, that puts us slightly below 30% by the end of 2026, which is a problem that I think we should talk about more as we go forward in the process. That's all I have. Thank you.
What is the point that you're making, though? I recognize that we would go below the 30%, but are you recommending that we go back and fine tune those and make more determinations about what recommendations we should keep and which ones we should do? And I think further to the point is focusing on a potential tax measure to address those needs. Mr. Bell, you talked about the issue that's come up before in terms of, well, what is the actual recurring deficit? And we've had that. This is like a joke. Oh, of course we can balance a budget, but at what cost? What doesn't get done, right? And so that's a conversation we need to have. Like these recommendations, some of them I think have some merit, and they have to be folded into that recurring deficit so we can figure out what is the net we have, and then we can make a case to our citizens that we may need an additional tax measure. Doesn't that sound reasonable that we need to continue that conversation?
We certainly need to tee up the conversation, but I'm nervous about taking money from reserves to putting it into, forgive this phrase, but using it different reserves for that purpose. I would just as soon leave it in our main reserve, but recognize that we have other needs and use that for calculation purposes and for community consumption, meaning that we share that information with the community as to what our real annual deficit is. We should definitely take that into consideration, but I'm not as certain about actually taking it out of reserves and moving it to other accounts, just because that makes me nervous.
I guess maybe I don't want to speak for Mr. Barrick, but the point that I've understood him to make is that things may be more stressed than seems to be presented here if we take into account some of our liabilities, unfunded pension liability, and those kinds of things, and that we all have to sort of make a policy call there as to what is the appropriate amount of money and what is that urgency, what does that mean? And I think I agree that the Finance Committee can help us out there and our community can help us out, but we have to be sort of top of mind on that issue so that we don't lose an opportunity. We have to show the need. I think we have demonstrated that the belt tightening, that we got that message. It's very clear that there's been a lot of belt tightening in this budget, and I'm pleased to see that. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that still are not going to be funded. and we have to grapple with that. Is that a fair state, Mr. Barrick and Mr. Comello?
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair statement, and I think a correct statement. The concern here is, right, it's the mathematics of defeat somewhat, where the suggestion here is that we essentially force budget, which we've done in the past, and what that means is we pretend we don't have all of these liabilities, we keep borrowing, and we make a budget that looks better than it is, but it actually, kicks the can, like we've been doing so many years, down the road, and these liabilities, as you can see with CalPERS, keeps getting bigger and bigger. They compound, and I don't think that's a very responsible way of budgeting, and we have an opportunity potentially here to do something different. Maybe we will choose not to in deliberations, but the conversation should be had based on the numbers we're looking at here, unless you can come back and say, hey, these aren't the numbers. If we take what the Finance Committee has recommended, and considering all the other numbers you presented, we definitely can't be in a situation where going into the end of June in 2026, we breach or even come close to a 30% threshold in our reserves. Breaching that would have negative consequences for our bond market, for the bond market, et cetera. So correct me if I'm wrong, if that scenario happens, and again, this isn't even considering a recession or any other headwinds, this is a rosy projection. Considering that, would we or would we not have to start looking at further force cuts in the June timeframe, if not earlier, to prevent that? Is that correct or not, from your estimation?
Actually, Councilmember Barrick, you are absolutely right, and I just want to make sure that for the mayor's benefit, I completely agree with Councilmember Barrick. In fact, we have had many conversations about this in the last couple of weeks, about the need to accurately portray and accurately communicate the city's what I would call history of force balancing and the fact that we have other needs. I'll also say that as a city manager, I'm saying something that other city managers have said in the past, which is we'll make these cuts and, they'll build minimal impact on the community. That's the right thing to say. What am I going to say? But there are these impacts, and staff will do what we can to balance the budget and make do, and then the problems continue, right? Residents get frustrated, streets don't get paved, parks don't get maintained, and so on, staff turnover, and so on. So I just want you to know that Director Kellogg and I have had conversations the last couple of days, literally, that starting July, she and I, with other directors, are going to be creating a contingency plan that's not going to look pretty. And we'll be keeping that in abeyance, as alluded to by Councilmember Barrick, which will be very, very straightforward and honest, and will show the impacts that we may have and the choices that the council will have to make. And frankly, based on the numbers I see right now, it's not going to be pretty. Again, because we at staff level need to be prepared, because you're right, we can't wait until June next year to find out that we are dropping below 30%, and that can happen for a variety of reasons, including a recession, as Councilmember Barrick has pointed out. So yeah, that's where we are.
If it pleases the council, I'd like to open it for public comment and entertain that part of our process. A lot of letters received, and I want to acknowledge all the letters received from a variety of different folks, both within and without, outside our community. So thank you for that. And I will open public comment now. As you've heard sort of the status of where we are. This is an iterative process. It's evolving. It's the first blush. It's not baked. We need to hear from our community. We heard from some members last night at our budget forum at the Cameo, and thank you for folks who attended that. But I will take time now to open it for public comment, acknowledging that we have received a number of letters. Honestly, I have not reviewed every single letter, but I'm getting through them. Obviously, some of them are similar. But I will promise that before this budget is adopted, assuming it will be, that I will read all of these letters. So I'll open it for public comment and invite it right now. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, everyone. We love being here. My name is Amy Carrabba-Salazar. I'm the CEO and president of the St. Helena Chamber of Commerce. The biggest thing I want to say is that we're a proud partner with the city on destination marketing efforts, and I use the word partner intentionally because that is exactly what we are. On the graphic, it says chamber, but it really should say destination marketing efforts. And I say that because that's what the funding is for. There's been some misunderstanding regarding the funding, and I want to be really clear. The city is not funding the chamber operations. We have our own budget for chamber programming. Rather, the city contracts with the chamber to deliver destination marketing services that directly support local businesses and contribute to the city's TOT revenue. The chamber, in addition, takes some of its own revenue and contributes to those efforts, so the investment is actually larger, and in turn, your TOT return is higher. So we're pulling money into those destination marketing efforts, and we're growing it, and we're spending more, and we're your equal partner, and I think that's really big to point out. On March 18th, I sent all council members an offer to come and look at our budget and our finances to really understand and break down the cost of all the services that are executed and required of us. I encourage you to take me up on that offer to help you understand the value that you're receiving. While we recognize the city's fiscal financial constraints, we are really concerned this proposed reduction will significantly impact the success of our shared goals. If the city's objective is to grow TOT, reducing the marketing efforts that drive tourism seems very counterproductive. The city's contribution was reduced from $325 to $175 for our last 2-year deal, and during that time, TOT declined. And I hope that you've looked at the correlation between the chamber-led marketing investments and TOT performance, because we have. Per Visit California, every $1 spent on destination marketing returns an average of $91 in visitor spending. So let that sink in. Think about that. The more you spend, the more you're going to actually see here in TOT. We're already at a competitive disadvantage as nearby cities, Calistoga puts forth $550 towards their destination marketing contract. Yountville is $350. That's not including the Tourism Improvement District. That's what the city is contributing to the chamber. I hope you were able to read the 150 letters. I know there was a lot. We did that in 48 hours. We couldn't believe how many businesses came forward. So if you get a chance, I highly recommend reading it. It was just a lot of support, and I think it demonstrates the local demand for continued investment in tourism marketing. The business community is speaking to you. They're pleading with you. They took the time to sign that letter, and that because it means something to them. This is really important to them. A lot of them don't have marketing budgets. We had hoped to collaborate with the city manager prior to today, though we understand there's challenges on both sides, and we respect that. We discussed a few cost-saving suggestions, but we wanted to have that discussion with council. I want to emphasize the scope of work you're getting right now currently at $175, and it would be virtually impossible to do this for $75. We operate the Welcome Center. That's 7 days a week. It's a brick and mortar. There's rent. There's services, booking guest itineraries, lodging. We book partners there, weddings, tour referrals, shopping, restaurants, you name it. We manage all the tourist-facing assets. Those are the chamber's assets. sthelena.com, all the social media channels, those are the chamber's assets. We manage all of that, the brand, the logo. We coordinate influencer media visits. We've already done a TV segment. We've got another one coming up. We handle media placements. We do newsletters to 23,000 people, 2 a month. We run advertising campaigns, Expedia with Visit California, TripAdvisor. We're spearheading a new North Napa marketing campaign in partnership with Calistoga and Yountville. We produce marketing videos. We've got a wine passport twice a year that we produce in-house. We maintain the city map. We actually created it. There was no city map. The list goes on and on. We also do the wine barrel treat during the holidays. Foot traffic was up 14% in November and December. I'd like to finish if I can. The value of the services
how
would
much more do you
exceed.
have?
I have 20 seconds.
The
value of the
I
service.
can accommodate. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. The value of these services would exceed $800,000 if it was outsourced to an agency, and we're being asked to deliver this for the $75K. It would be really hard. We also operate all the chamber stuff, right? We do ribbon cutting ceremonies, local things, chamber creates. It was a priority to bring more public art to St. Helena. We put the mural up. We have benches coming. This is all funded by the chamber, not the destination marketing contract. Our goal today is to engage the full council in a productive discussion about the city's tourism strategy and your long-term vision. The Chamber remains committed to open, constructive, and collaboration. And really, the biggest thing I want to say is respectfully urge you to maintain full funding for the Chamber's destination marketing efforts, because we know that the return on the investment is clear and that it will grow. Thank you so much for your time and letting me go over a little bit. I appreciate it.
Okay, others wishing to make public comment on our budget in particular, or any other items related to the budget? Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I am Kristen Cropper, Business Development and Partnership Manager for Louis Martini Winery, Orange Swift Cellars, and Rombauer Winery Vineyards. And I'm here to also represent the other St. Helena wineries. I stand before you today emphasizing the critical importance of the continued investment in the Chamber's destination marketing for the success of our wineries and other local businesses in St. Helena. A $100,000 cut could potentially be detrimental to our businesses here. Our town relies heavily on tourism, and reduced visitation directly impacts the TOT, which funds essential city services. While Visit Napa Valley does promote the broader region, their advertising does not focus on specific towns like ours. This has led to a noticeable trend. Traffic in Napa is up, but fewer travelers venture north to St. Helena. Our TOT and visitor counts clearly show this trend. In contrast, the Chamber's marketing efforts have been instrumental in keeping St. Helena on the map. Their targeted campaigns reach a broader audience and ensure our town remains competitive in the crowded Napa Valley landscape. Consider Louis Martini Winery. On average, our traffic has been down year over year. However, as Amy mentioned, one of the programmings they do is the Little Book of Experiences, a passport that they do twice a year. Because of this Little Book of Experiences and Martini's participation in it, with our traffic being down November through December, we were up 18% from our prior year participation in the LBE. Might not have come to our winery. This helps garner awareness and new visitors. Crocker and Star Winery. So thanks to the Chamber's passport program, they saw a 14% increase in 2023 and 21% increase in 2024. From Pam Starr, owner and founding winemaker at Crocker and Star, these visitors had never heard of us before. New customers are vital for our survival and growth. At Cliff Family Winery, President Lindsay Gay says they see a clear correlation between the Chamber's destination marketing and increased foot traffic to their tasting room. Furthermore, the Downtown Visitor Center plays a pivotal role in welcoming guests, guiding them to local businesses, promoting experiences. Reducing this presence would significantly diminish tourism engagement and impact local economic activity. We rely on the real-time collaboration with the Visitor Center to ensure guests arriving in St. Helena are connected with the best of what our town has to offer. Moreover, in today's digital age, travelers plan their trips online. The Chamber's strategic digital marketing ensures that St. Helena shows up in searches, social media, and travel planning platforms. While individual businesses focus on our budgets, promoting our brands, it's essential to have a coordinated destination-wide digital strategy. The Chamber's efforts ensure St. Helena remains top of mind for visitors considering a trip to Napa Valley, benefiting all of us. We all love talking about economic downturns. This potentially is looming, and marketing and promotion are among the most important factors for businesses, yet they are typically the first to face budget cuts. Our chamber needs more marketing dollars, not less. With that, I'm going to take 5 more seconds just to say 2026 marks 150 years for the city of St. Helena. It would really require strategic marketing that the chamber budget will help fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dean, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carl Dean. I am the owner of Sam's General Store. I'm also the owner of 3 businesses in Calistoga, as well as a business here, so I could bring a unique perspective to it. Also wanted to point out, not sure if everybody knows, but for 25 years, I own and ran a marketing agency, and I manage budgets from $15,000 a year for clients all the way up to $10 million a year. One of the things that we always saw, as soon as business starts getting bad, companies actually spend more on marketing. They don't cut it, okay? So it's all about the top line, and Anil, you actually said that. We have a top line issue and not a bottom line issue. And if we focus on the bottom line, we're gonna start seeing our top line start to shrink even more. So we actually see, now I'm new here in town, so now we're just getting partnered with the chamber and stuff, but up in Calistoga, we opened up in 2019, and we have, while we hear from everybody in the industry, everybody's declining, we have double-digit growth in Calistoga every single year at our hotel and our coffee shop because of what the destination marketing's doing. Each year they're doing more, each year they're partnering more with us. We're all sitting at the table with them, and we see the growth happening. And that's what I'd love to see for St. Helena, as now I've invested so much into this town, to see good growth here. But again, Anil, you said it very clearly, you have a top-line issue, and the city definitely has a top-line issue, and you could see that. I wouldn't start cutting the bottom line, especially on marketing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christopher Costow. Carl just took everything I was going to say, actually. I think he was looking at my notes.
We used the word ditto when that happened.
Should I just say that? Should I save everyone a lot of time?
With it. Yeah, it's Italian for, what he said.
Exactly. As you may know, I own and operate the Charter Oak here in St. Helena, as well as businesses up and down the valley. So like Carl, I feel like I have fairly good visibility on the effect of the town-specific marketing. Unlike Carl, I was actually here last year having the exact same conversation. And while I enjoy watching the gears of government grind fairly slowly, I would much rather be at the restaurant trying to make things work there. As has been alluded to, these are challenging sort of macroeconomic times, as we know, and Napa has its own, to some degree, self-inflicted microeconomic challenges as well. So we're having all these very similar conversations ourselves, and like Carl, I very much heard the statement that this is a revenue issue, not an expenditure issue. So it seems a little bit silly to borrow a phrase to cut off our nose to spite our face, to take away the one single engine that we know time and time again helps drive revenue. One thing we've learned in this slight downturn is that locals are not enough. They're not enough to fill a restaurant the size of ours. They're not enough to fill restaurants far smaller than ours. We need as much marketing efforts as humanly possible. And again, we understand quite acutely budgetary restraints. But we, to Carl's point, again, thank you, are using this time ourselves to enlist a marketing agency for the first time ever. So even though we are slower than we have been historically, we are electing to, at this time, spend the additional dollars to bring in a marketing agency, because we understand that when there are potentially less, we need more eyeballs on the things that we're doing. We call it within the restaurant, we call it playing to win versus playing to not lose. And I can't stress enough how important that is. The efforts of the chamber ensures that the things that make this town special are understood and are spoken about. I think in absence of marketing dollars towards these efforts, I sort of shudder to think what the end result of that is. We feel on the street every day, especially those of us who own businesses, there's simply less people coming to this town. And if you play that forward, and if that is a trend that continues, I think we're going to suffer not just as a restaurant or a hotel or retail outlet or a winery, but as a town writ large. So I'd very much like to see that not happen. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
it. Good evening, everybody. My name is Aaron Trumbull. I own Sportigo in St. Helena. We have been in town for 45 years. And unlike
How could that happen if you're only 35? Go ahead.
Didn't say I started it. I have been there almost 25 years, though. Unlike a lot of my colleagues who are speaking, Sportigo is about 70% local business. That's something I'm very proud of. It's something that we've worked a long time, and it's one of the reasons why we're still here. However, we can't run a business on 70% of revenue. And so we rely on the chamber to make up that extra 30% and get people in front of our business along Main Street downtown. We don't have the budget to compete with our competitors when it comes to that. If you look at our competitors like REI, Sports Basement, sometimes our own vendors, they have millions of dollars of ad spend that is going out for their marketing. I think Sportigo spends about $500 a year in that. And so the chamber can do a far better job at bringing people onto Main Street than we ever can. By cutting the investment to destination marketing, what we're going to start seeing is that in front of our visitors that are coming here on their phones, we're going to start seeing other towns pop up. We're going to start seeing Paso Robles or Carmel, where Amy and the chamber have done an amazing job of getting St. Helena on their phones and in front of them. Small businesses like mine can never hope to compete in that world, but a properly funded chamber can. This funding is an investment in our town, our community, and businesses like mine, and we hope to continue to serve our locals for another 40 years. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Eric Reichert, President and CEO of the Calistoga Chamber of Commerce. I think Carl Dean said a lot in a little bit. He's kind of the Hemingway of tonight. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm here this evening to really urge you guys to pass destination marketing funding for the chamber. I hope that this council, much like the Calistoga Council did unanimously, sees the value in destination marketing for not just St. Helena, but for Up Valley as a whole. We all know that tourism is the lifeblood of Napa, and that the city council in Calistoga made the decision to invest in some robust destination marketing. Even I was surprised at how behind it they were. They see it as a positive. They see the positive impact of tourism and the benefits it brings to the Calistoga community. The continued collaboration of our city council, city manager, and city staff has led to an increase in hotel occupancy every month for nearly a year now in Calistoga. It's been amazing to watch, and we really do consider ourselves partners with the city, and we work together to try to figure out how to bring people in together. It's a real partnership. I think Carl said that as well with the businesses. So we're all kind of talking around each other and with each other to bring people to town. Right of a downswing in the current national economic outlook kind of being chaotic at best, I believe now is the time to invest in destination marketing, not divest from it. Carl brought that up. When things are down, that's the best time to turn the funds into destination marketing, into getting your face out there, because Paso, Lodi, those destinations are out to get us, and they will eat our lunch if we let them. Amy and her team have done some really amazing things with the funding they've received previously. So if you were to increase funding levels, which I honestly think you should, I can only imagine how much more the city of St. Helena would benefit with a continued boost in TOT and sales tax. And I think if you cut, it would be devastating to both. Earlier this year, St. Helena, Calistoga, and Yountville started Napa Valley North. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of it. It's a campaign to help add another layer of marketing on top of what Visit Napa Valley does for the Valley. But we're focusing specifically on each town and our individual personalities as a whole. So with a decrease in funding, I'm not sure St. Helena could participate in that in the future, and that would be a big loss for us. The whole campaign so far is off to a great start. We have almost 10,000 views on our Vimeo, all kinds of engagement, a lot of impressions, and it's been a really great thing. It's only been, what, a month? A month around? Yeah. So St. Helena really helped coordinate the marketing. Amy and her team helped coordinate the marketing assets for that campaign, and it would be a big loss to the three-town collaboration if they were to have to bow out of that. So I know that there's a lot of positive letters. I went through a lot of them as I did in Calistoga when I did our funding, and I noticed there was a letter about. I think it was something about people or the chamber focusing on businesses outside of St. Helena as well. And all the chambers do that. We have Raymond, Cliff, a bunch of Yountville members. We have Shandon. You know, we work in the Valley to provide value to membership for those who want it and who think that we can provide that for them. And so I don't think that that's exclusive to St. Helena. I think that's Valley-wide. But in short, I just hope you guys will really take a look at keeping levels the same or increasing funding to destination marketing, because when we all win, we all win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have questions on that point, and somebody may be able to address those. I guess there's a distinction between the destination marketing contract with the city and then the chamber and its own resources. And there is a criticism, whether productive or not, that our funds are being used to advertise businesses outside of our city. And I can see the point. So I don't know if our destination marketing funds, the ones we give, the 175, are used for that purpose, or are those the chamber's own funds used for that purpose? I'd like to know more about that, to have a distinction made there, if there is one. And then what has been made is that there's a St. Helena Tourism Improvement District, and what is the purpose of that, and how do those coordinate, and why have two bodies like that? I don't fully understand that, and it's a question that I'm making in good faith so I can better understand how we use our funds and how we can beef up the improvement district and make that more viable. I don't have enough information there. Anyway, those questions may be answered at some point, but go ahead.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Rick Kaufman with Harvest Inn. I'm the one who wrote the letter. I'm excited that there's so much encouragement and enthusiasm for tourism. That was not the case when we bought the hotel 12 or 13 years ago. And I think what the chamber is doing to promote businesses in the city is great. But I don't think it's the chamber's job to be a destination marketing company. Our competition is Calistoga. Our competition is Yountville. Napa Valley's competition is Bordeaux and New Zealand and Washington and Willamette Valley. And as you just alluded, Mr. Mayor, there's some confusion between whose job is it to promote St. Helena and whose job is it to promote Napa Valley, the state of California, or the United States of America. And I don't know if I'm the largest taxpayer in the city, but I've been told several times that I am. And when my tax dollars are being used to fund operations which are telling people to go to Carl's Amazing Cafe, or to go to Marcus's restaurant at Brasswood, or her winery at Martini, sorry, Martini's not in the city. We shouldn't be telling people to go there. They should be going to Sylvestrin or Maryville, because your tax dollars are going to get a return on investment if you have people go to the businesses, to people who've invested hundreds of thousands or tens of millions of dollars in this town. Louis Martini didn't. Brasswood didn't. So I'm not here to fight. It's a small town. But have an intellectual conversation about the return on investment. I hope you spend more on promoting St. Helena. Every dollar you can. I don't think you can afford a nickel. I'm surprised you're even offering the $100,000 that you are. But without a level of accountability, I actually sat and counted every email since January 1st of last year. Only 43% of the businesses mentioned by my count, I'm sure I made a mistake, but it's close, are actually in the city limits. And they can tell us with creative accounting that these dollars were used for this or that. But the fact of the matter is, we should be speaking for St. Helena, because if they don't, who will? So I sent you a letter encouraging you to study it, make a good decision. And thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Now that Brasswood has been brought up, sorry.
Yes, we're not
welcome, Marcus.
Hello. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I as a Marcus Marquez, resident, owner, home, businesses in town, partner at Goose and Gander, also other partners, and then, yes, Brasswood is in the county of Napa, but in St. Helena proper, I guess. So yes, I know that that's always been an issue of destination marketing dollars, and the clarity of when Amy started in saying that the money goes to destination marketing and not to operations of the chamber. Brasswood's membership to a Chamber of Commerce from Calistoga to St. Helena and even Yountville is more just to be on the map of that. And we support all of St. Helena as businesses in our area. We support all nonprofits in the area. So as we do fundraisers for the high school or for the Beyond a House or for the library we actually collaborate with Songwriters in Paradise. Our friends book every year now for the last 6 or 7 years, Harvest Inn, and we do a collaboration called Songwriters in Paradise. So we're working together as we've always have been. I think Amy can clarify how those monies are spent. And the money that the city contracts to market is 100% of St. Helena businesses. Everything else outside of that, the Chamber of Commerce has a plan to market Napa Valley and St. Helena. So I wasn't going to speak, but I really know, as when I started this business in 2012 with Goose and Gander, my kids were in kindergarten. Now they're both in college. And every year, like Chris Costa was saying, we have these conversations on $100,000 to market the city of St. Helena. And we're all in it together. We've all done some great, amazing projects. And there's so many new businesses in town that we want to support. And so I hope that was clear on what I was saying. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to close public comment at this point, unless somebody else wants to, somebody other than somebody who's already spoken, somebody who's already, if you can address that one point, Amy, that would be fine. Then I'm going to close public comment right after that. I don't want to have an extended, we were in closed session before this, so we've been at this for quite a while. But the point about the TID, I think, was interesting. I'm asking these questions because my lawyer brain says, ask the questions. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily taking an adverse position. I just want to have more information. And I think our public deserves that information, especially given the fact that we've made a number of significant cuts, particularly in the nonprofit sector, which is dear to my heart. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great question because when people meet me, they learn that I wear 3 hats. And I really do, because I wear a chamber CEO hat where I'm managing the chamber budget. It's a 501c6. We have members. And chambers can have members from anywhere. They pay a membership and they get benefits. And with those benefits is the assets that the chamber owns. And then on top of that, we're hired by the city to execute the destination marketing contract. And we get the 175. Before it was more. We've seen it. You're proposing now less. And so the chamber takes chamber funding. And that's from the members, right? That's revenue from the members. And we put it over to destination marketing because we believe the number one thing for businesses is tourism, right? They need to be busy. That's what makes a successful business. Then on top of that, there's the Tourism Improvement District. There is a grant that we apply for. It's not guaranteed funding. And with that grant, that money has to be executed on hotel-driven campaigns. And in that, it is only St. Helena businesses. They did give approval for one property that is outside St. Helena, but we've had discussions about removing it. But that is up to the Tourism Improvement District Board, and I am not on the board for that. There is a city council member that is on the board for that. There is also the general manager of Harvest Inn is on the board for that. So that is something that could easily be fixed. And it's just a matter of the Tourism Improvement District giving me the direction and me making that change. And I'm happy to do so. And that would be with the specific hotel-driven campaigns that we do. I sent you guys the data on that. Those are tracked campaigns with Expedia. We do them in partnership with Visit California as well as TripAdvisor. Those can change every year. It's up to the Tourism Improvement District. They can direct me and say, hey, we want you to do this instead of this. And I take that direction. I take that money. We also, the chamber, contributes to that as well. So the chamber is contributing to the destination marketing contract with the city. We are also contributing to the Tourism Improvement District funding with the advertising campaigns and anything else that is in that entity with the grant proposal that I apply for. I just applied for one. I don't know yet if I've received it for the 25-26 fiscal year. And that's the 3 hats that I wear. So when I'm wearing the Tourism Improvement District hat, I have to only be promoting those specific properties that I'm given allowance on. When I'm doing the DM, I'm also including our chamber partners, and because you guys are utilizing the chamber's property. Those are all the social media channels. It's the website. That's the chamber's, right? And then the chamber is itself, its own entity. Those are the ribbon cuttings. the mixer, we put up the wine barrel tree. That's the mural. That is all funded by the chamber. That is not from this. And last thing I'll say, I did say, please come and look at the budget. I'm happy to go through every single cost of every single line item so you can see how it is broken up. Because even Anil had asked about like the mural, was that coming from this? No, it's not. It's coming from the chamber. And then the biggest thing is to see the Welcome Center cost. There's a lease with the Welcome Center, which I know I've communicated. So that poses a little bit of an issue, but when that lease is up, that is something that we could have a discussion about and make changes if we want to make changes to it. Move it, keep it where it is. It's in the contract. It's in our agreement with the city. And so it's very confusing, but it actually all does come together at the end. And those are the three hats.
Thank you for the clarification.
You got
it. Thank you. Appreciate the comment there. Okay, I'm going to close public comment now and bring it back to the council. As it did last year, the chamber contract is sort of an outsized part of our budget. We have a lot of big issues here. I think there's some general support frankly, I may be unique here, but I actually think we should fund the chamber even more than we do, but I may be a minority on that. But I also say the same thing about our nonprofits because this is a time where vulnerable people are getting even more vulnerable. So that again, is a passion of mine. I think Mr. Barrick showed some support for looking again at that $100,000 cut, Mr. Camello. Maybe are you supportive of that, as most of us, and maybe going back, I don't know what that number is, but the message I've been delivering to our community is that now is the time for shared sacrifice. And so we're all, our entire community is having to grapple with these issues. And one of the things I'd like to encourage, and I've had these conversations with individual board members on the chamber, is we have to continue to communicate throughout the year. I'd like to see more chamber involvement in some of the things that the city is doing. I know there's some reticence to do that. I'd like to see the chamber leadership come here more often and talk about some of the things they're doing and where we can be partners. The partnership is based on communication, and it shouldn't just be at this time of the year every year. And that would be something that I feel very strongly. If we can communicate more often, we will be able to understand each other more clearly and benefit one another. But I do think there's some support there, Mr. Camello. I don't know how you want to handle that, other than maybe get back with the chamber and see if there can be some negotiation on that contract Well, what would your motion be in terms?
I'm not ready. I want to talk about more stuff.
I'm just talking about one issue right at this point. And the floor is still open. I'm going to probably take a 10-minute break right now. But on the one issue that I'm focusing on now is the chamber contract. But there are other issues, and certainly there's a motion or some direction to be given. We can give it. Let's take a 10-minute break. All right. We're ready to reconvene, bring it back to the council for further discussion. Okay, behave yourselves, council members. We're going to get back on. We ready to go? All right. Okay, so Vice Mayor Deasy had a couple comments I think she wanted to make about the budget process and maybe some particular comments on some areas, and I'm certainly we welcome that kind of commentary, and this is the place to do it. Whether a motion needs to be done, we'll just take that as it comes, and the important thing is to give our city manager and staff very clear direction in terms of the next steps. Vice Mayor Deasy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did want to say thank you to the staff for all the time put into developing this budget, Mandy and Neil and your whole team. And I also appreciate that you did focus on reductions on non-essential items like one-time consultant fees and a couple of additional positions that were not tied to core services or asset maintenance. So bravo for kind of protecting service delivery while addressing the fiscal challenges. I do have there's a top line and the bottom line, and I think that they're both important. So I am very concerned with cutting the chamber and what it will do to economic vitality and our top line. So I would like to, I actually think we could, my thought was, it had been 325 and they're down to 175. I was thinking something like get them up to 200 or something. So adding 125. But I don't just want to add to the budgets. I did read the Finance Committee's report, and I've just been looking into things as line items as much as I can. I am struck by this each year expenses are rising, and that seems to be personnel costs. So as we look out a bit further, I don't think we can keep doing business as usual with respect to the way we staff things, and it's hard to change. But I do think we need to keep looking at that and stay on it after we pass the budget. So I did have a couple of questions and things that I wanted to ask about from the Finance Committee's recommendations, and then one other. One was the planning position that I think is currently unfilled and is going in. I had a question about that and how it affects, right, so it's an addition to the budget, and then is bringing that in reducing money that we're spending on contract planning? And I'm also really curious, we just approved another $40,000 to get to, I think it's $166,000 for planning automation. And when we spend the money on automation, I think usually the argument is going to make things more efficient. So I'm hopeful that those kinds of things should reduce staff time, and I'm wondering if we may not need to add that planning position back in. That's my question.
So the short answer is that the planning department has been understaffed for many years. In fact, this position was, if you remember, frozen. And it was unfrozen by taking the money or funding from the assistant to the city manager and moving this to this particular position, essentially unfreezing the position. And the reason the previous council did that last November is because there was a clear understanding that for many years, as I said earlier, the planning department was understaffed. And while we will be improving our automation and providing better, more accurate information by implementing a trackage system that helps both planning department and the public works department, that will not result in a reduction of one position. It just makes it more that we are, rather than using Excel and some of the other systems that we use, we consolidate that data into one system and provide for historical data collection as well as better service to the community. One of the portals that we want to implement from this trackage system is a public-facing portal where residents or businesses can enter their own data and be able to get better at be able to track the work as it goes to the different work groups within the city.
Okay, thank you. I'd still like to push for it seems like less paperwork to me. I get that it might not be a full position, but I'm very interested in seeing how we can get staffing costs down, if not now, certainly into the future. There were three items, other contract services, I think in the city manager category, the city council category, and the non-departmental category, which would add up to $150,000. So if they're not, I'm wondering if any of those other contract services are currently spoken for, or if they really are placeholders, if we can remove them and just tighten up.
Yeah, they are placeholders, so you can remove them, but I would not recommend it. And the reason we went through the entire budget and we were careful not to remove these items because inevitably, every single year, we end up spending some of those monies for different projects and needs. And that's why we keep them there, because otherwise we'll have a very bare bones budget and we'll have no capacity to adjust. As Director Kellogg mentioned, the fact that we had a little bit of money last year when we were hit with the ransomware, we were able to purchase computers and deal with other issues. So I'll just caution against doing so.
Okay. So what?
You have the floor.
Okay. So what happens if we cut those monies from the? I mean, it does happen sometimes that things go over budget. So what happens if we cut it as a means of really trying not to spend it, and then if there is an absolute emergency, like hopefully there's not going to be another cybersecurity attack, something, then we come and say, this is not a line item in the budget, and we don't really have a place for it, and we really have to spend it. Is that possible? Does that work?
It works and is inefficient. So we want to strive for efficiency too. I think at some point you're going to have to trust your city manager and your executives to do the right thing and manage our budgets appropriately. Otherwise, I just don't know what to say. As far as efficiency and business transformation is concerned, as you know, we have just gone through an RFP process, which we'll be bringing to the council for approval in the next couple of meetings. And that organization, whoever we hire, will have the opportunity to look at the organization and, to your previous point, be able to look at our planning department and see whether there's opportunities there to cut costs.
And the dollars spent on that is not included in other contract services. It's already line items.
So that contract, we are hoping that and the class and comp study will come out of this year's budget. We are hoping to bring those items to council within the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one more question on the recommendation for sidewalk rehabilitation to be funded through Measure T and Measure U funds for $50,000.
We'll just need to get clarification from MVTA that it is an acceptable use of those funds. But we are working on that, and if they confirm that it is, we'll make that amendment in the budget that's presented to you on June 10th.
Okay, thank you. So I will just say that my perspective would be to fund the chamber, at least get them back to where they were, and if not, maybe add an extra $25,000. I don't have a particular love for the chamber, but I'm interested in maintaining it or not. I don't, in the revenue that it generates is what I'm saying. And I think I may be the most aggressive, but I would look at the planning position and cutting the other contract services and possibly the sidewalk rehabilitation. It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of where the budget comes in. And so just looking for possible cuts. Those were the things that I saw. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Yes. Ms. Spataro.
Thank you. So I guess first of all, I want to thank our staff, Andy especially, and Erica, for all of the work that you have done. This is a huge undertaking, and we really appreciate everything that you have done. And also to the Finance Committee for everything they've done. I know this was a lot of undertaking for them as well. Really appreciate all of the feedback and all the information. I think we are definitely on to creating a really solid budget and I'm really excited about finalizing it in June. We do still have obviously some work to do. I too feel that we should keep the chamber where they are. I think, especially given the situation that we are in right now with the wine industry, especially, they really need our help. I think taking away marketing from them would do nothing but hurt not only them even more than it already has, but also hurt our city. I really appreciate, I saw I saw a new email coming out for Visit St. Helena, which was really cool. I really liked seeing that. I think if we have more of like those kinds of things, I think it will ease maybe the concern that money from the city isn't going to advertise for the businesses within St. Helena. I think also, to Mayor Doring's point, having more conversations about where the money is going on more of a regular basis, I think also would ease that concern as well. And I think that's not just, putting on the chamber. I think that also belongs on the city's shoulders as well, to make sure we keep that communication going. And I think that will help the public as well to feel better about their tax dollars and where it's going. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for those comments. Anything else from my colleagues? Mr. Summers?
Yeah, regarding the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, I love the businesses and their support, and of course, nobody wants to lose money. That's a major motivator. But as I look at it, there's so many ways to kind of slice the cat here. I see over 100, businesses and letters, and I'm thinking, $1,000 each, there's $100,000 right there. That's right. Also, I would love it if we do fund the chamber. Does it make sense for them to come in every quarter and give us a little report so we don't get to like this situation where it's more dire and more intense and less awareness, and come in and go, hey, here's what we've done, here's what we did. Also, I like what Rick Kaufman mentioned, because that's kind of the word on the streets is, the chamber, it supports everybody in any business that buys in. I own a dispensary in Napa. I could be a member, right? So, but the idea being, if we're funding $100,000 to support the businesses in town and other businesses, are taking away, I mean, I don't know if you're really taking away. It's like so much perspective with this, because is there a true conversion from the marketing? We don't really know. I mean, we say it is, and we can find data that proves that, but it's a little bit nebulous. It's not fully true. It's not fully untrue. It definitely contributes, but I don't know if it's 100% the thing. However, perhaps, that $100,000 goes towards the businesses in town that we do generate revenue from, and go, hey, support what supports us back. It's reciprocal, regenerative, and it's honest. And perhaps that could kind of be the balance. But I think engaging with the chamber and catching up, and the public having an awareness and insight to what's happening as we go. And then if there's a thought before we do a whole year of funding and all this, we kind of know what happened. We know what we did. We know what we like or don't like. And then maybe we can make a suggestion or have more collaboration and be more of a community, Yeah, I'd love that. And that's all I got to say right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Okay, any other comments from, we're focusing on the one issue. There are other issues, of course, but I want to make sure that we have clear direction. I think we're having some conversations. I think Mr. Mello is getting some of the drift, but I don't know there's consensus on all of these issues. Mr. Barrett, I can add to the conversation.
Along the same wavelengths. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose that we have our city manager interface with Amy and the chamber to get clarity on these points, right? I think there's some consensus that we like the idea of supporting our business. Supporting our business. But, there is some concern that that money goes to St. Helena rather than Rutherford or other areas. So clarifications on that, I think our city manager and his staff would be best served to delve into that in partnership with the chamber and then report back so we can make some decisions.
Mr. Gamello, one of the questions I had, and I raised this question, and others have, and to a certain degree, it's been raised here. But has the staff really done a really vigorous, robust review of all of our impact fees to see where any of them could help out the general fund? I know I had a question with respect to that planning department position and the potential use of a portion of housing impact fees. And that's just one small example because I don't think that's a whole lot of money. And I don't, probably that position is not directly devoted to housing, although it probably should be. Someone's going to have to do that. But you get my drift in terms of the use of traffic impact fees and all the other impact fees we have. I know there are obviously limitations, and folks out in the community think we can just spend 100% of that. It obviously has to be linked to growth and other impacts. The impact, you have to show the impact. So, but can you answer that question in terms of, I assume that there was a review and anything fruitful come out of that review?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I'm embarrassed to say you mentioned this a few days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I kept meaning to ask Director Kellogg and City Attorney Walsh about it, and I haven't done that. I apologize.
And that's just one small example. I'm just looking at the general philosophy of now that we need some of those funds, could they be useful? That's the point I'm making.
No, good point. And I meant to follow up. I was focused on other. I can ask if you have the answer, Director Kellogg. You can mention it. If not, we can certainly research later on.
Yeah, no, we have been researching some of the items because they were brought up by the Finance Committee. And you saw some of the recommendations they have, but there was more discussion at the committee level about other items as well, too. And so I did consult with Ethan in regards to some of the things that were brought up. Some of them we know for sure they cannot be funded with those impact fees just because the nature of the fees are to support growth. But in addition to that, some of the impact fees actually are project specific. So the projects are listed in the study and they can only be used on those projects. So unless we amend the study, then it's not allowable use of those funds.
Yeah. This brings back my recollection about my theory that we should be able to use impact fees to pay our rent at City Hall, because I thought, wow, that's that should be, but no, it wasn't in the study, and there's not a direct link, to my great frustration. But Mr. Walsh, what say you?
Right. No, I would just say that we have had some initial conversations about that, and to the extent that the funds are available, we're trying to look, and if there's adjustments we can make to make them more available, we are looking into that as a potential means to soften some of this blow.
All right, thank you for that. I assume that's the case, so thank you for that. What do you need anything more specific from your council? I know that it's some parts are nebulous, but I think we have given clear direction on other parts, and I think there's consensus there, particularly on getting back with the chamber, getting a little bit more information, and to a certain degree using your discretion in that regard. But any other topics that are sort of top of mind for you?
We just need some direction on a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. One of those was, let's see here, I think this one. We just want to make sure that you direct us to put these monies into all three amounts into the budget. The 197 for police officers already in our budget, but the other two items are not. I'm assuming that, just from the previous discussion at the council, there's consensus that we can add that to the budget, which of course will increase the amount of money that we need to withdraw from reserves.
I'm supportive of those recommendations. I'll look to council to see if there's consensus there.
What does the grand total get to then? The
So it'll be let's see, it's about 171 additional, because the 197 is already in the budget.
Yeah, the total excess spend.
It'll be approximately 1.9 million if you add those in there that we would be using from reserves.
Withdrawing from reserves, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Others having any opinion on this question here? Yeah, it seems like we have general consensus.
I mean, yeah.
Did you want a comment?
Well, it's kind of to something that Ethan said earlier about the Prop 218 being violated with the CARES low income assistance, and I was kind of just searching around, and it seems like, what about like water districts that aren't managed by a city and they do it, and then look at Marin County. So I don't know, Ethan.
So what I would say is that the general advice that we've given folks kind of across the state when we've advised on this issue, and I can get more detailed information for the council if you like it, but it's that if low income folks are paying less than what their share is, and then we're making up by that by collecting money from the people who are paying the full freight, then they are paying more than the cost of providing the service because they're paying extra money to subsidize the lower income folks. And so they're paying more than their fair share, which is where you run into a potential violation of Prop 218. And so when we've had programs like this, then we get in a situation where we say, well, you can use your general fund, you can use some other funding source. The water district question, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, so I can follow up and see how those types of programs work in that context. And we'll follow up on that. Because if it's available, yeah, I'd love to do it. I mean, it seems like something that furthers our goals, but I just don't want to get us into a situation where we have a potential risk.
Okay, I thought maybe it was a protective liability sort of. So yeah, if you could go deeper and it's a possibility. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Thanks.
But stay under budget, Mr. Walsh. Did you have another thought, Vice Mayor Deasy?
Yeah, I did. As we get to the budget approval, you mentioned having a contingency plan, and for if there's no new revenues, having a contingency plan and what that would look like. Are we? When would we expect that, and can we? I mean, it's not tomorrow, it's not next month, but when are we gonna? When should we be seeing that?
And now I regret mentioning it. That was, frankly, internal discussion that I wanted, the exercise I wanted the executives to go through to prepare for the worst-case scenario. I'm hoping that we'll do so within the next 6 months. So at mid-year, which is we'll be bringing a mid-year budget for the fiscal 26, probably around the second meeting in January or the first meeting in February, typically. And we might be able to do something, give you a preview then. Depending upon what the economy looks like in the first quarter of 2026, you might want to be considering that, some of those scenarios, and have policy discussions. I'm also hoping, frankly, that between now and December, that the the Finance Committee would have those kinds of conversations about revenues too, because frankly, if there's a detailed conversation about revenues and some of the cost drivers, we might be able to, and by then also we'll have hopefully a study done on the business transformation efficiencies. So we'll have a holistic view of what's possible and what actions the council may want to take. So I'm thinking that these actions would probably come to the fore in the first quarter of 2026, because there'll be several studies coming together at the same time, approximately the same time.
Okay, thank you. So January.
How about the February?
Thank you.
All right. If I haven't said it already, I think it's exceptional work by the staff on this budget. I know it's much of it falls on our director, Kellogg, who has a vast amount of knowledge, has been with the city so long. She knows it in and out, but it's still very stressful. A lot of work to be done. We are a highly engaged community and a highly engaged city council, and then you have a finance committee to work with. So a lot of good civic engagement, which is time consuming, but it is part of our democracy, and I think it helps make better decisions in the long run, even though the sausage making is very painful sometimes. So kudos to the staff. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. More work to be done going forward. continue to engage with your council, the finance committee, and the staff. Again, we have to really focus on shared sacrifice. We're all in it together. We are a community. The businesses have to participate, or the real estate community has to participate. We all have to participate in doing well. We are blessed to have a full-service community, which many communities do not have. We have to recognize community members that we have our own library, we have our own police department, we have our own fire department, we have our own wastewater treatment plant, we have our own water treatment plant, parks and recreation, administration. Very few cities of 5,300 are in this enviable position, but it costs money, and those costs are going up. And so we have to grapple with that. I'm very proud of the council, particularly our new council members, and to a certain degree, some of our prior council members who keep forcing us to get better at this and grapple with difficult questions. We're grappling with difficult questions, and I like the courage of doing that, because I think we're going to get better as we go forward. And it really is about long-term stability, not just a budget stability, but fiscal stability over time, because we owe that to our public. So with that, I'll move on to any, are there any, I'm going to move on and close this matter and go on to our next item. Are there any reports from any council members? I think we have just a few minutes left. Invite any reports on any of your regional bodies. Vice Mayor Deasy.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I did want to say that I wasn't sure if I had even mentioned it to the council, that the Napa Climate Action Committee is embarking upon a regional climate action and adaptation plan. So it's just, I just realized it is kind of a big deal, and I hadn't shared that. So it's every jurisdiction does have to put in a little bit of money, but there will be a big plan to aim to, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase resilience to climate change, and sort of promote preparedness for climate-related hazards. So it doesn't happen all the time in that committee, and it's happening.
All right. Thank you for that update. All right. As I say, after most of these meetings, this one particular, find joy whenever and wherever you can. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for the public's participation, all the letters. Thank you so much for being here, and onward. Thank you, staff. Have a great night.